All right, everyone, we're now going to move our attention to decimals and percents. Now, I think it's always important before we show you what we're doing is perhaps saying why are we doing it. And the reason that we're doing this is because very shortly we're going to start working with money and we're going to figure out prices and sale prices. And again, you might be thinking you've done a lot of this before, and that's true. This has come up in various grades in the past. But whenever you're dealing with prices and discounts and taxes and so on and so forth, percentages and decimals play a role. And you need to make sure that you have the ability to convert between percentages and decimals. And, I really, and by all means, if this is something that you are quite comfortable with, well then, that's a bonus for you. One thing I'm going to do here is, obviously you could read this and have it shown for yourself, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it like this. I'm going to pretend that, let's say you have a decimal. I'm just going to put one here. Let's go 0.445, okay? Now, if it helps, if you like thinking in terms of money in this case, well, you don't quite have a dollar. You don't even have half a dollar. You have 45 cents. And if you were to think of it, you would have 45 pennies out of $1, which is 100 pennies. But I don't want to get into that whole thing right now. I think this is not about the understanding right now, what a percent or decimal represents. What we're looking at is how to convert. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 0.45. That's in decimal form. And down here is 45%. Now, I can tell you that 0.45 and 45% are equivalent. But what I'm here to show you is how to go between them. Now, you might find this really, really helpful. Sometimes, when it comes to math, if you can see something, it really, really helps. The long story short of everything, all the words you see here is, if you have a decimal and you want to go to a percentage, all you have to do is take that decimal value and multiply it by 100. So if you want to try it, you could type 0.45 into your calculator, multiply it by 100, boom, you're at 45%. The reason that I draw this out for you is because, if you learned in math, things are actually very equal and opposite sometimes. So, it makes sense. If you have 0.45 and you times it by 100, you get a percent. Well, how do you go from a percent back to a decimal? It should be the opposite operation. And, hopefully along the line, you figured out that the opposite of multiply is divide. So if you have a percentage and you want to go to a decimal, take that value and divide by 100. So, if you want to, if you draw this on your page or you can visualize this in your mind, but that's a trick that I kind of use. So if I did another one down here, if I had 0.39, that's in decimal form. If I wanted that into a percentage, I would times by 100. That would give me 39%. If you want to go from a percentage to a decimal, it would simply be the opposite operation, and you would divide by 100. Perhaps the one thing that I should point out here, I'm just going to erase this, what I have on the screen. The only other thing, though, is at part C. It's like, well, what the heck do I do if I have a fraction? Well, as I'm sure you've covered numerous times in life, fractions, decimals are kind of the same thing of same way, same value, just represented in different ways. And if that means anything to you, you might think of the most common example, 1/2 is equal to 0.5. But again, I don't want to get into that too much right now. But the question, one thing you're going to come across is they might give you, well, let's say they give you 4/5. Now that's in fraction form. And where they want you to go, I'll finish off that word, they want you to get that into a percentage. Well, how the heck do you do that? Pretty simple, actually. What you do is there's a middle step. You need to get that fraction into a decimal. And the way you do that is simply, we've lightly touched on that in this course so far, is you would take out your calculator, you would take your fraction, go 4, and in case you don't know, this line does mean divide. So you go 4 divided by 5, and that will give you a decimal value, which is 0.8. Well, now you simply can apply the rule that we've been covering off the last few minutes. How do you go from a decimal to a percent? You simply multiply by 100. and that would give you 80%. Now the questions that come up here that let you practice these skills, they're very straightforward. They're mostly either calculator work or you know it in your mind. But please get comfortable with how to go between percentage and how to go from percents to decimals, decimals to percents, and also how to go from a fraction over to a percentage. And you will see very, very shortly how these skills are applied to working with money.